Hi, I'm Dino Tripodis. Tonight on Whiskey Business, we are thrilled to once again have Gatto's Pizza on the premises. And Gatto's Pizza is part of this book, Columbus Pizza, A Slice of History. Author Jim Ellison joins us tonight on Whiskey Business. Hi, I'm Dino Tripodis. Welcome to Whiskey Business.
Woo-hoo, yes.
The podcast not so much about whiskey as it is one
with
whiskey. There's an old adage that says that sex is like pizza. Even if it's bad, it's still pretty good.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Well, I must say that as I've gotten older through the years, I'm consuming a lot more pizza than I am sex. So
there you go.
I've become a tad more discriminate about the pizza.
All
There
right.
is actually bad pizza, but not tonight. No, tonight I'm very excited. In just a little bit, Jim Ellison will be joining us. He wrote the book Columbus Pizza, A Slice of History, which is just what it says. It's a book about Columbus Pizza, its origins, its history, its myths, its conspiracies.
I'm excited because
the fiction,
a transplant,
right?
And I have some serious questions.
Me too, because I have like Dayton pizzas, but this is Columbus.
And Gatto's is one of the well-established pizza places in this book, going back to the Gatto brothers' days. It's now currently under new ownership, but at the same time, it still feels like family because Tony DeRoberts and Dave DeRoberts' dad have been part of the Gatto legacy forever. So Tony's smart. He kept a lot of the things the same. And the only thing that changed is the ownership, but the tradition lives on. But we'll talk more about that and other things as well. First, a little bit of business while I pour the guest bottle, Hansberry.
Oh, my.
The guest bottle is this year's Columbus Italian Club single barrel pick, and they went down to Peerless.
Nice.
Which, this would normally, this bottle cost me $90.
It's got a red label on it. It's usually green.
Normally
That's
they're
awesome.
green, right?
And then it got the little Columbus Italian Club logo there.
That's very nice.
To show that it's
I'm
ours.
excited.
Yeah.
Because I think what did they have? Old Forester last year, or what did they have before? They've always had good picks.
Yeah,
good picks.
Russell was one
Maybe
year.
Russell.
Russell was 1 year. I think a Makers was 1 year.
Yeah.
I
You drink them and forget.
Crazy.
Yes,
Old Forester was 1 year for sure. And I'm going to go ahead and in advance pour our guest his glass as well, assuming that he'll partake in whiskey. If he's a pizza connoisseur, I got to imagine that there's been some imbibing of bourbon in his history as well.
Cold beer goes with pizza, but so
Sure,
does
sure,
bourbon.
sure.
That is
All right,
true.
quickly the business, because I
Yeah.
want to ask Johnny a question and give him a plug, and I want to get to Jim.
Whiskey Business is the podcast not so much about whiskey as it is one with whiskey. Thanks for subscribing on your favorite podcasting app, iTunes, rate and review us there, Spotify. Spotify is quickly becoming a more listened to podcast source than Apple's iTunes.
I wonder what that is. That's
and
nice.
YouTube is becoming the go-to place for
Yep.
podcasts because people are actually enjoying watching them as well as listening to them.
Yeah, so watch it.
So watch it.
It's been funny watching my kid watches a bunch of YouTube, and he always is like, "Oh, what? You have a YouTube channel?" He's very impressed.
Oh boy.
Why is it that our children know nothing about what
I don't know, man.
I've only been
They
doing
know
it for 8
nothing.
years,
Yeah,
Davis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for subscribing on our YouTube channel, Whiskey Business with Dino Tripodis. Hit that subscribe button and
Smash.
and then ding that little bell.
Ding, ding, ding,
And then
ding,
every time we have a new video post up, you'll get a notification and you can watch it with your family.
Yeah.
Or no one, or by yourself.
Is that it?
Facebook, Instagram, whiskeybusinesspod.com.
Have we put up a TikTok video yet?
We have TikTok, but there's still no videos up.
Okay.
Baby steps, Dino. It's been a week.
on.
What do you think I am?
It took
Kim
us
Kardashian?
3 years
Yeah.
to get a TikTok account.
You wanna do
It'll
some
take us
dance?
another 3 years to post a
Are we
video.
gonna dance on that? Any dancing involved?
I don't know. We have to do something,
Okay.
right? We have to do something.
Some kind of
stupid.
Not after
synchronized
this
stupid
pizza.
thing.
Like
Evergreen
this
podcast.
isn't
Thank you very much.
Stupid enough.
right.
And do we want to give Dave's
Yes.
phone number real quick? Gatto's
For
Pizza.
Gatto's
Gatto's
Pizza? 263-3737, 614 area code.
Yeah, we're
Or online.
Or online at
yeah.
what? Gatto's Pizza, Clintonville.com. Did I say that right? All right.
Gatto's Pizza Clinic.
Yeah.
And we gave them their slogan, which we've never asked a single dime for it because they give us the pizza. Got to get a Gatto's.
Gotta get a
Gatto's.
Got to get a Gatto's. Got to get a Gatto's.
And we're having the sausage sliders and sausage.
Yeah, he's
pizza.
showing off tonight because
good stuff.
The pizza man is the pizza man author is here, and
That's
that's
what
fine.
I get. I get delivery of the sausage sliders and salad.
Yeah, it's good. The
it's
sausage
great stuff.
sliders are great. Just
Yeah.
one of the things that they added. And also, before we get to Jim, John Whitney is sitting where Chip would normally sit. Chip is out sick. He's got the COVID. That's
right.
It's
going
does have
around
COVID.
again.
Yeah, it's going around. Yeah, he's got so
He was performing in the Olympics. You know how all the Olympians
That's
had
right.
it?
He's
Yeah.
on the mend, but we still told him to stay away.
Yeah, just in case.
Just stay away another week. So he's
right.
missing. He's missing probably his favorite thing. He loves the
Yeah.
He
loves
pronounces it.
Gattos.
He pronounces it Gattos.
Yeah, is it Gatto's
Is
or
it
Gatto?
Gattos or Gattos?
I think it's Gatto.
It's Gattos. What? Chip is
Oh,
right.
damn.
No.
The correct Italian pronunciation.
Which means
my-
cat.
Eating crow.
Oh, man. I thought, because I had always heard Gatto's.
I think the common man says Gattos, and I think the
All
true
right.
Italians say
Sorry,
Gattos.
sorry, Chip. I apologize.
The phrase, yeah.
Chip,
Oh.
yeah,
We
you're
apologize.
a big win.
Gattos.
All right, Johnny's wearing an Edith Keeler's Edge of Forever Bar and Grill T-shirt.
That's
that
right.
sounds vaguely familiar. Is that a Star Trek podcast that I subscribe to?
It is a Star Trek podcast that Chip and I work on. We sit down and we watch a episode of the original series, and then we afterwards we talk about it. And usually we're really bad at remembering the order of everything that happens, but we try to just kind of fight through it and have fun. And we drink a little bit of whiskey.
Between the
during
two
it.
of you, you guys get it down pretty good.
You guys are doing great.
We
I
take
love
notes.
it. I subscribe to it, and I constantly blow them shit like, oh, I love all the short little pieces, little clips that you take out.
all
of
the
podcast.
effort you're putting
all
forth.
the effort that you're putting in. I go just like on Whiskey Business.
Oh,
No.
Well, we're trying. We tried the last episode, except Chip got sick, so he hasn't been. He didn't give me any time codes.
Try.
Baby steps, Dino. We've only been doing this
see.
podcast for 7 years. Cover crying out loud.
Okay.
And I go and I watch the amount of views on YouTube,
Yes.
which are 10 times the amount. Because if only I had Star Trek fans loving whiskey as much as they love Star Trek.
I know, right?
Yeah. Welcome everybody. It's Jim Ellison, author of Columbus Pizza.
Hey, Jim,
a
can you
slice
go that way?
of history.
Scooch that way. Your entire, the whole chair that way. The whole chair.
The whole chair.
There we go. There you go.
Scooched.
Welcome,
Thank you,
Johnny.
sir.
Which one was
Trained
your glass? Do you
professionals.
remember which one was your glass?
He didn't get about any of them.
That one. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
very
that's
good.
one.
That's right, because I poured good. Yeah.
Because it was to my right.
When you were not looking, I switched them.
Okay.
The poison is in that one. No. Hi, Jim.
Hello.
How
Thanks
are
for
ya?
having me. I'm great. I'm clearly with a bunch of pros here,
okay.
but more so, and maybe some people haven't seen the visuals recently of this world headquarters, but I'm surrounded by books.
Yeah.
And literate things,
Yes.
and so I'm in a lot of alcohol, and that makes me feel like I'm in a safe place
You are in a safe
with
place.
smart people.
see
You,
manual
don't get that
typewriters?
often, yeah.
Manual typewriters.
Yeah, this is good.
Collect them all. I love books. I love to write. I love to do this. I love pizza.
Yeah.
Which, so yes, you're in a safe
If I had
place.
to write out another pandemic, I would want to do it here because
Taking
two things will
reservations
keep me
as we
busy.
speak. You can have the downstairs, which
Okay.
is just as eclectic as up here. Yeah,
Perfect.
There's books everywhere. There's books in the garage that I have no place for. But books are good for the soul, don't
They
you think?
are, and this is a curated collection that you have. This is not a hoarding situation.
No,
So this
no.
is
In
this
fact,
is-
over
this is
there,
good.
right there, just people can't see it on camera, but in the glass case, those are all first editions. And some of them are signed, and I treasure them. I value them.
And we will not reveal the actual physical location of the world headquarters to protect this stockpile
It's
as well.
no secret.
yeah.
It's no secret. You know,
It's actually public information.
nobody wants to come here.
I gotta say, since this podcast, I've actually read like maybe 3 books.
Wow!
Yeah,
In
so-
7 years?
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
I think-
Then
thanks
I
to
gave
you.
you one of them,
Yeah,
didn't
thanks to you.
I? Yeah. Well, it's okay. Oh, the whole book.
Yeah,
Pretty
most
much.
of it.
Is that the
One of
release
them was-
form? We have to. Is there a release form?
No,
we have
I took this very seriously. I researched this before I came over. I listened to some old previous episodes that
Oh,
you've had.
which ones did you listen to? Anything you-
Bill Demora.
Oh gosh,
And-
the
Oh,
senator
those-
is coming
those are
back.
always
By the
fun.
way,
Yeah,
he's coming back for his annual visit.
He, several of my students have interned with him, so
Oh,
we're in
nice.
high esteem, good connection.
Students, you teach?
I am a career advisor for
Okay.
the John Glenn College of Public Affairs.
Oh, nice.
Okay.
So
At Ohio State.
I help them find jobs. I make them get jobs, right? You can't come to college to hang out. You need to get a job.
yeah.
You need to
You're
have a
pointing
plan.
toward that, yes. Makes
And
sense.
who would be a better person to learn from than the good Bill Demora?
Yeah,
Billy
great
Demora,
guy.
you know,
Love him.
as crazy as he is, he's been a magnificent senator thus far in his tenure, and he's a dear friend, and we look forward to having him back because he's superstitious as hell, as you know about the Buckeyes. But that's also he's picking an interesting time to come back because I'm sure some politics will get into the mix as well.
Well, maybe you can talk about low information voters.
Yes,
Yeah,
I could do
and
that.
I also listened to the Gallows episode because you have to listen to that.
To Tommy Gallo?
Yeah.
Which
Yeah.
one? The first one or the second one?
Oh, it blurs together. I think
Yeah.
it was a Tommy Gallo one.
Yeah, well, there's
he,
two-
He
there's
was
two-
in
he
his
was-
kitchen. There was all types of things going on.
Oh, that
He
was during the pandemic.
Yeah.
yeah,
We had him on just before the pandemic.
We had just before there was two Tommy Gallo ones. The first one blew up, and the second one was good too. But the second one was him being thankful and appreciative that people didn't give up on the restaurant during the
And
pandemic.
do you remember the night we did the first one?
Yeah.
He was checking his phone because they had just announced the shutdown.
Right, you're right,
And he was
You're right.
freaking out.
He was.
Well, in one of my previous careers, which was the food industry and enabling people in the food industry, I remember that too because many of my friends were going out of business or on the brink of going out of business. So breweries in particular, restaurants, distillers shifting from, oh, well, it looks like alcohol is not going to be the thing. Let's start making, things that people can sanitize their hands with, right? And doing
Right.
that rapidly and quick. So it's a crazy time, but that also fueled my opportunity to write the book. Because one thing I did to
you
preserve
go.
my sanity is basically 10 o'clock at night is when I'd start writing. And I'd write from 10 o'clock till 11:30 because that's when my wife finally went to bed. My son finally went to bed. And it's like, okay, I am just going to do one thing and knock this thing out.
That's your. I like to write at night
Yeah.
too. It's quiet. It's peaceful. There's no distractions. And or try to write early in the morning at the same time. But nighttime seems to be the right time, where the muse, if you will, comes about. You had your first slice of pizza at Dante's. I'm assuming that's Dante's on Indianola.
Correct. There's
Yeah.
I guess there were more than one Dante's at one
at
time.
one time.
And then those connections are a little bit fuzzy, but they were connected. So until recently, I a lifelong Clintonvillian.
Okay.
So Dante's set the template for me for
Sure.
pizza. I didn't know that Gatto's existed. Like, South and North Broadway, as far as my parents were concerned, was beyond there be monsters.
Right.
Like, why would I go all the way down there for pizza?
Right.
So Dante's was what I grew up on. Dante's was what we had for pizza parties at school.
Sure.
And then this little neat, quirky little place popped up called Franco's.
Franco's.
And for a young kid that's like, wait a minute, I can have pizza with these super crispy pepperonis on them. And they've got a pinball machine with a half-naked Pegasus.
Sure.
Oh, that's
on
all you
it.
need right there.
And old like Star Wars 17-minute clips and
They-
Laurel and
they
Hardy
ran-
shorts.
they
and
ran
stuff
the
like
old
that.
movies, yeah.
That was heaven.
That was everything you
Until,
needed.
and you'd mentioned this when I walked in, then the owner wound up creating a little thing called the Villanova, which I call the fabulous Villanova because of the bar there. So
There's a
yeah,
great
so
bar
that
there.
was my early template for pizza. And then late middle school, I started to make some friends closer to Morse Road. And that connected me to some pretty amazing places as well. And I don't know why I'm blanking on it because Pizza House.
Pizza House over on
Sinclair.
Sinclair.
And I went to the original Pizza House before they are in the current location, which used to be a Lawson's decades ago. So dating myself in this conversation, but
all
all
right.
of that set my template for pizza.
So what possessed you to write the book about pizza?
The idea started kind of twofold. I've been a freelance food writer for 20 years. And one of my careers was running Ohio's first brewery tour company.
Cool.
And a couple things I discovered running that brewery tour company is we could not get people to pay to drink with us on Fridays. And Sunday is just not a great day to do that either. So I'm like, I'm going to have to create another tour so that I can make a living doing this. So I thought, okay, what goes good with beer? Pizza. So I created a pizza tour. And on that tour, I did Meister's.
Oh, great bar pizza.
Iacanos.
Iacanos is great too. Yes.
Mikey's Late Night Slice across from Hound Dogs.
Almost.
And that was for logistics. So I could
Mikey's has
do
become famous in its own
an
right.
interpretation of Chicago pizza.
Which one?
Meister's.
Meisters has a Chicago an
Deep
interpretation
dish.
that,
They got a good
in
deep
my
dish.
opinion, rivals
I would say it is better.
rivals a
Yes.
Chicago deep dish pizza,
And then Iacanos were doing classic Columbus style.
which we'll talk about here in a minute.
Mikey's Late Night Slice will say inspired by New York style pizza, but
Yeah.
Mikey's is great stories, and I think we're allowed to say this again, slut sauce and things like that.
Sure.
And then Hound Dogs is pizza for the people. You know, that was their tagline for many years.
It's funny. You've got
Yeah.
you mentioned a lot of these things, pizza places that,
Yeah.
that I wanted to ask you, and I'll backtrack
Yeah.
on Hound Dogs and possibly Mikey's Late
So
Night Slice.
during that pizza tour, many of my customers said, like, you've got to write a book. And so as 2019 was winding down, I knew I was going to make a life career change. I'm like, okay, I've got a lot of flexibility. I've got a little bit of free time. Some of these folks are starting to die that I need to get stories from. Like if I need to do it now, like I'm not going to have the flexibility of time to ever do this again. So 2019, I started doing my research. I made my pitch to the publisher, and I'm like, I'm going to get this done. And I can say in November of 2019, the publisher contacted me and said, hey, originally we were looking at a year contract. How's it coming along? And I said, like, it's not coming along very well at all. Like, nobody wants to talk to me. Nobody's cooperative with this at all, which boggled my mind because I've been a food writer for a very long time. And I've never encountered a restaurant owner or a business owner that said, please don't write about me. I don't want the exposure or the business. So when I was literally like in the case of Dante's, right, the first place I ever had pizza at, the place, that I grew up on, I had to stalk the owner for months. He blew me off 3 times before I literally kind of trapped him in the parking lot and said, hey, we keep missing each other. You say show up at 10 o'clock and I show up and you're not there. So he very reluctantly talked to me and he thought it was going to be a 10-minute conversation. It was 2 hours.
Did he say what his reluctance was?
Nope, he did not. And then many of these other owners, it was the same thing. Many folks that I really wanted to talk to wouldn't return my phone calls, wouldn't return emails, wouldn't leave like written off messages. In the case of Iacanos, it was one of my tour sites that had great stories. I knew the stories from working with them, the manager, but the owner, like I mailed him a copy of a book about Columbus Italians. I'm like, this is what the book will be like. I wrote him a letter. I left him messages. He never got back to me for anything.
I think it's because they're kind of old school and they don't really want to.
It's
None
old
of your
school.
business. None of your business. I run my
beat the
business.
You probably can't see on the podcast, but I'm not Italian.
Right.
So, there's a little bit of vetting there. My wife is.
secrets.
So maybe should have had her do some of that. But yeah, it was
What
it was
is
really
They're
challenging
gonna find out
to
we
me.
ain't using real cheese.
Right.
And or
We
what's-
ordered Papa John's.
Yeah. I don't know if I can say it on this podcast, but if you follow the Columbus Pizza Connoisseurs Facebook page,
All right.
there is a classic drop the mic trolling comment that is. Are going to bleep this out when I say it?
No, we're not gonna believe anything
Okay,
out.
fucking provolone.
Yeah.
You'll see that thrown out in reference many times. So
It's a bad
yeah,
thing.
but yeah, so it was. Well, provolone's great.
I love
it
provolone.
defines Columbus in many ways.
Sure.
But yeah, so it was really boggling my mind. It's like, why is nobody cooperating? I've never worked so hard to like literally pull information from people and promote their businesses. So I told the publisher, like, I don't know if this come together. I'm going to need at least another year. And then a couple magical things happened in December and January where I finally connected with folks that I needed to get that kind of origin story. And I'm like, okay, I'm good. It's like, maybe this will happen. And then COVID hit, and I'm like, okay, I've got enough research that I can write this. I'm feeling good about my first chapters. Let's go ahead. And within a month, so at the end of February, I contacted my publisher and said, hey, I know I was not optimistic about this and almost ready to throw it in, but I can get this done. I want this out in time for Christmas. When do you need this by so you can send it to publication? And they told me, get it to us by June 1st, we can do it.
Cool.
So then I just wrote like crazy and I knocked this thing out.
And I heard you mention something to Dave Roberts from Gatto
Mm-hmm.
saying that if you email you'll there's a supplement to
So
there's a supplement to this
so
as
this was
well?
published in November of 2020. So I've kept this basically a chart where anything that has changed since the book came out, I make note of it. So an address change, owner passes away, closes, whatever, I track it. And so to people that I like, or people that just email me, I'll just email it to them.
Right.
Because I like to keep it updated.
It's nice.
Yeah.
It's very kind.
Yeah.
It's not a lot of authors
I
would do
love
that.
this.
They'd
I
be
like everything about you.
everything.
Do the updates include?
And it's not fancy. Here's a real, this
Okay.
is what it looks like.
That's
It
nice.
is-
The supplement
It
Do
is
they-
8 pages.
for now.
Yeah, for now.
It'll
So do
continue
you
to grow.
include new pizza joints or no?
No, just the places that are in the book. And
Gotcha.
there's a neat story I have related to that I'll track back to. But there were some places I missed. There were some places that I was like, oh man, I really should have written about that, or I didn't know about it, or just couldn't connect with the owner at the time. So I did, for about 2 years, write a column called Aficionado. D-O-U-G-H,
very
right?
nice,
For
very
Columbus
clever,
Underground.
very clever.
And that was for me kind of my redemption, which is like, all right, I'm going to focus on those places that I wish I had written about and didn't, and then like some new places and discoveries and things like that. So the two together, the book and the series I did of Columbus Underground, which is about, I think, 24, 26 articles, that puts it all together.
Cool.
Cool.
Yeah.
Very
How,
cool.
So how many loosely pizza joints are in Columbus, Ohio?
That's a tough one.
That is
And
a
you know
tough
the
one.
best way for us to track old school technology. So back in the era when we had yellow pages, you could go in and say, how many pizza places do we have? And literally count through there and get a count. The other thing that causes the challenge is pizza is ubiquitous now. It wasn't 20 years ago.
No.
So what place doesn't have a flatbread or something you could
What's a
call
pizza
pizza?
joint?
pizza.
Right,
yeah.
Not to mention
So-
the profit margin
Right.
is incredibly huge.
Yeah.
Oh, that's why all the
It's-
Italians
yeah.
have pizza
It's
joints.
a
Don't give that. Don't give me that. Yeah, I know what
it's the hidden secret of the business, but I think all owners are required to say like, oh, we're just barely getting by.
Right. Yeah,
and that is
yeah.
the case for some, but the main reason for that is a little bit different today is historically pizza was a cash business. And cash is king. And and no stereotyping here, but it may be like, oh, I only made $10 today, and you've got a big bag of like $1,000
I don't know what you're talking
under the
about.
counter.
That's
Yeah.
ridiculous.
Yeah.
Nobody would do that.
Yeah.
Gatto's used to be cash.
Until very recently,
Yeah.
cash only, no
Yeah.
credit cards,
Yeah.
no air conditioning. Only weak people need
I
that.
felt honored and
Yeah.
privileged because they used to deliver when I had a regular Monday night
Mm-hmm.
poker game for years before the pandemic. Gatto's would deliver pizza, and I was honored that they actually took a check.
Yeah, and not from everybody.
Not from everybody.
You had to
No,
be
no,
vetted.
No. Yeah, not anymore, not anymore. But at the
Nobody
time,
has any checkbooks
at the
anymore,
time they
right,
took the
Dave?
check, and I would tip the
Yeah.
driver in cash. But sometimes I wouldn't. I wanted to keep the cash because I know I was going to lose in poker. So
Yeah,
I didn't really want to put out
Yeah.
$60 in pizza.
I'm not saying this is a true story, but my vision is that for those folks that maybe got check privileges
yeah,
and didn't follow through, if you've ever seen the movie Better Off Dead,
yeah.
there's this scene where this kid is chasing John Cusack around intermittently on his bike,
Yeah.
trying to collect $2 from him for the
$2.
newspaper. I think probably one of the Gatto's kids was doing that to people that checks bounced, right? It's
Well, I don't know. It had to
yeah.
be one of the younger Gattos, not
Yeah.
Vince or Joe.
They'd call it in. It's like, I need you to take
I
care of this for me.
guarantee
Yeah. But maybe that happened. I don't know.
Did you speak to Vince? I think you spoke to Vince in the book, didn't you? Vince Gatto in the book. Yeah,
Great.
that's
He
right.
was very generous at this time, unlike most of the others, and was super helpful and supportive. And I really appreciated him because, again, I was getting stories and perspectives that I hadn't had before. And again, I didn't grow up with Gattos. That was a later discovery.
Right.
In
Even though
my-
they've been
in my
around
early
since
adult years. I
late
had the-
50s, 57.
52.
52.
Yeah,
52.
So one of our pioneers, one of the first probably 5 to 10 in Columbus ever. Big deal.
Yeah.
And for them, kind of a big jump too, because like they're going to the northern suburbs of Columbus, which is Clintonville. Back then. It's like, hey, we're going to this new up and
considered
coming
the
area.
suburb. They got a bunch
So
of hippies.
pretty amazing. But I had a bunch of friends that lived on West California Avenue. And
I lived on East California.
There was many a time that we would have the Friday night porch party, which involved, not unlike what we're looking at here, a lot of alcohol and some Gatto's pizza.
Yeah.
Right. So that's where that really kind of became part of my culinary landscape, so to say.
Yeah, it's just there's a lot of history, and what I like about where it's at right now, because like I said, Tony DeRoberts has it now, and Dave DeRoberts is his father. He delivered the Gattos tonight, and along with the sliders, is that sometimes kids are smart, and they retain, some of what made something successful. He made the move, over to what used to be the Wildflower Cafe.
Yeah,
You know,
and also before it was Wildflower, for a couple years it was Clintonville Academy.
Oh, that's right.
And I was one of the first students at Clintonville Academy for the 2 years that it was open. So I'm connected to that building in multiple
See,
ways.
there's all kind of serendipity going on around here. But what I always liked about it, and these guys kind of did it after Monday Night Bocce. One of the staples when Gatto's was on High Street was a lot of the Monday night guys would go and have their pizza, and that still exists. For the most, I haven't been invited, but it still exists. I know I got to pay my dues yet. When I'm 70, maybe I'll be able to come and have the Monday night pizza. But
Isn't there like an age, like you have to be a certain age? Do you play Italian bocce in Columbus?
No, but
Okay.
but
There should be.
But there's definitely no age where you can be cut off from playing bocce because we got guys that can't walk from here to their car, but they'll get up and roll a bocce ball.
You said last year the oldest guy in the club was on your team. Al
Yannon. Al
Yeah,
Yannon is
yeah.
92,
Attaboy, Al.
3
Oh, wow.
now, 93 now. He's 93, and if we could be in as half a good a shape as Al Yannon is at 93,
I want to meet Al.
he's you know what that's a good. You
have him
will.
on the podcast?
I'm gonna have him on the
Yes!
podcast.
All
I'm
right.
gonna have Al Yannon on
I
the
was
podcast.
here when the decision was made. I'm honored.
Yeah. Al Yannon will be on the podcast. That's got to happen because he's from Steubenville too.
Perfect.
Oh, there you
better.
go.
You should have him talk about Steubenville style pizza.
DeCarlo's.
yeah.
Okay. Don't. The Roberts is the Roberts is shaking
Yeah.
his finger.
Yeah, this is when the trolling comments start for the podcast.
There are some people. I personally love DeCarlo's pizza, and maybe we'll put a pause. What do they call it?
A pin in it?
A pin in it,
Yeah,
and come
yeah.
back to it. I grew up with DeCarlo's pizza, and there's some people here that still can appreciate how they do DeCarlo's pizza. We'll talk about that a little later. And there's some people that it's what they're doing is wrong. It's not. It's not. It's.
What is it? Tell me.
We'll come back to it.
Okay, all
We'll
right.
come back to it. We'll come back to it. First of
I'm
all,
gonna
let
remind
me
you,
take
come
a
back to it.
pause. Have you had a sip of the drink yet?
It's wonderful.
Is it? They did a nice job. The boys
Yeah, it's real good.
that went down to Peerless to get this single barrel selection. I applaud you. I missed this trip.
Oh man.
This time you outdid yourselves. You really did. It's really good. This is really good. And I had a sip of it earlier, and I said, okay, well done, David. You like it? It's good, right?
For my writer for future episodes here, or really any media empire, it's going to be this and a bowl of green only M&Ms. Like that.
okay.
That's
That's
in
going to
my
be your writer.
moving forward.
Well,
sure they
you won't be able to
reread
get
it,
that
yeah.
particular bottle because that's just a single barrel for the Columbus Italian Club, and we've done that for the last 4 or 5 years now. And I was on a couple of the original picks. I missed the last 2 picks. I won't miss next year's pick. But yeah, there's one year they didn't have me, and I'll be a snob. I'll say that they
Wasn't as good.
they missed my palate. They did, but not this time. Not this time. Excellent.
It's kind of thick when you first drink it. It's a little heavier into my the viscosity as
It's got a nice little hug to it at the end.
Yeah.
It's got a little bit of spice to it as well.
But now my ice cubes melted just a little bit.
Yeah.
It's
It
going
opens it
down
up a little bit.
really
Does
quick.
somebody have to be affiliated with the Italian club to drink this wonderful marvel of alcohol?
No, not really. Just that because I bought 6 bottles.
Okay. Does having a sip make me a member?
No,
Oh, darn. Okay.
no, it's not that easy. But
Well, you're in the club.
I'm in the club. Yeah, I bought 6 bottles. 2 went to my neighbor, and 2 went to a friend who's also friends with Billy DeMora and so forth and so on. And Billy DeMora will refuse to put any water or ice in his bourbon. He drinks it neat.
He's a man of principle.
Every step of the way, despite the fact that I have told him that scientifically, even a drop of water, just try it. Just put a drop in to see
bad
what
luck.
it does to open it. It's not bad luck.
For him, it is.
It's not bad luck. He's just stubborn in a good way. But yeah. So
It's very good.
and he'll
Very
be
good.
upset. He'll be upset that we already had this and didn't save it for him.
He
So
normally brings us good stuff, though.
Yeah, he does. He's
Yeah,
good.
yeah, so it's all right. And Johnny made a good comment. It's red. Which
label.
with the labels red.
usually green.
It's normally green. You didn't get Peerless in Ohio. It's a good splurge bottle.
It is.
Let me get back to the book and some of the facts and the fiction, if you will, about the Columbus pizza. The first pizza in Columbus at TAT?
Correct. And that is verifiable, not urban legend, not something that there's a lot of debate about. And for most firsts, like first hamburger, right? People,
Right.
it was here. First banana split, whatever. But for pizza in Columbus, it is very clear. TAT, 1934, possibly a little bit earlier.
On the east side.
But
Yeah.
Jimmy Carova had a menu. Sorry, just attacked your equipment. Had a menu that showed that pizza was on the menu in 1934. Now, very different than the pizza they serve today,
How
or even
so?
what we think about pizza. So again, this is Depression era. You are making with what is available to you. So the way he described it was kind of similar to, and I heard this from other Italians that lived in Columbus at the time, is based on family recipes from the part of Italy that their parents grew up in. So it'd be a thicker bread, thicker crust, with kind of ground up tomatoes on it. They would have used sauce in the restaurant. And they didn't have access, because in this Depression, you don't have a lot of Italian purveyors in Columbus yet, because Italians, like, oh my God, like how dare there be in the city. But, they would have like square slices of American cheese that would melt into that pizza.
Wow.
So very different. That evolved over time.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, TAT, no dispute, definitely that was the place.
Okay, so answer me this question, because I see this name as, I would imagine, because I see a lot of locations, a lot of franchises. First pizzeria in Columbus, Romeo's,
Correct.
back in 1950. Now,
Correct.
Is that the Romeo's that is down the street from me as we
That
speak?
is not. Romeo's is a chain.
Yeah.
I believe it's started or based in Ohio, but it is not connected to the Romeo's that we talk about in this book.
Okay.
Yeah,
What's that?
no-
Medina.
yeah,
Okay.
correct.
So that was a different Romeo's.
Wait, hold on. TAT, that's still open?
Oh,
still
yeah.
open, yeah.
Still open?
TAT is going to be open for 100 years, hopefully
Yeah.
in 2029.
Yeah.
And I really hope they make it that.
They will. They will.
Yeah.
That place.
The
parking lots-
two daughters there, best people ever. They do so much for the community, just like their dad.
It's a classic.
But it's a hard business.
It is a hard
Yeah.
business, but they made it through. There's another restaurant that that made it through the pandemic, because you can't get a there's not a parking spot available on Sundays at that place.
And then to backtrack a little bit on Romeo, so that's Romeo Surrey. That's
Okay.
the Romeo behind
Gotcha.
Romeo's Pizza, who had teamed up with Jimmy Massey. The two together combined to open Romeo's in that kind of Grandview, Upper Arlington area. So 5th and North Star is where that first location was at. Big deal. If you look at the Massey's website, it says 1949. With some creative license, that is accurate. But I had to find this. I had to figure out, when did this place actually open? It's December of 1950. And I found, and I actually got this from Jimmy's son, who's a Catholic priest, by the way. He had this article that I could not find anywhere else that they had saved that was from when they opened in 1950.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
So that's a big deal. Pizza in the Midwest, most places, mid to late 50s. So Columbus, for our part of the country, we were kind of pioneers. We were early in the
Progressively.
game.
So tell me how, because in the order of my questions might be backwards, because I have so many of them. Like
That's
I said,
okay. That's
we're
the
not
way I
going to
think.
cover everything that I want
Right.
to cover that's in this book. So tell me how Columbus becomes the pizza capital of the
USA.
of the USA in the 1990s.
Correct.
Right?
Right.
How does that happen?
Yeah.
You got New York, you got Chicago, you got all these places where you would think they would hold the crown till there was no more crown to
Right.
be held. But Columbus becomes the pizza capital.
Somewhat disputed, but a title that Columbus held for more than 1 year, probably 2 or 3 if recollection is correct. And we were anointed with that title by Pizza Today, which is a trade publication, which has a lot of credibility. So the criteria for that was, at the time, pizzerias per capita. So for your population size, how many pizzas do you have? There are some other things that fed into that too. Columbus has been on the cutting edge for pizza technology for a very, very long time. A couple things that contribute to that. what we know as RDP today. So Richie DiPaolo.
That's a
That
name I was going to
family.
bring up in a little bit.
So
God bless them.
that family, innovators for all things food delivery, especially in the world of pizza. And also we have Jim Grody from Donato's Pizza.
Also another company I was
And
going to bring up. Because,
gigantic empire today.
but it's got like it's decades of its origins and now where it's at today.
Jim Grody is a great person, great human, does a lot of things, again, to support the family. His daughter, Jane, the company does, so think the world of him. Pizza that they started with is very different than the pizza that you'll eat from them today. But Jim is somebody that is obsessed with consistency and with perfecting processes and doing new and different things. So a lot of people don't know is that they have created a lot of very innovative technologies, not just for pizzerias, but for pizza in general. So frozen pizza, food processes for restaurants and things
Is he
like
like the
that.
Henry Ford of pizza?
In some ways, yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
curious. You say it's not what it is because are you saying that the Donato's in 1964, I believe?
63.
63. Okay, I was close. I'm going off of memory for the
Yeah.
not bad. Is not the Donato's of
It's a
of,
different experience.
different
And
experience.
scaling, and this happens with many businesses. You start with one location and you make pizza
Sure.
a certain way, and Jim would have continued to perfect. And like he realized that for him to expand and grow his business, he needed consistency.
right.
And for most pizza businesses, that's where they get stuck, right? How many places do you know grow to 2 or 3 or more and are able to maintain what made them great at the beginning?
Quality suffers. It's like Jack Daniels, you know. That's their thing. People might not think it's the best bourbon, but they can make it barrels and barrels and barrels and barrels, and it's all going to taste the same no matter where you
Because
buy it.
you can't have the same manager, the same family members at all
Right,
the locations as you grow out.
Yeah.
So he was obsessed with consistency. He briefly opened a second location. It's like, we don't have it. Like, I don't feel good about serving this pizza to our customers at this location. We're going to close it down. I'm going to restart until I know that I can have the same product everywhere.
Oh, wow.
I'm not going to grow.
Okay.
And so they waited to really started to expand in the early 80s. Big deal. But again, he needed those consistencies of process. And in doing that, did a lot of things that expanded not just to Donato's, but to pizzerias in general.
All right, because I see that in there's as far as the consistency goes. No offense, Dave, but I also enjoy Angie's Pizza. All right, and they have several locations in town. And every once in a while, I say, where'd you get your? I get it from Angie's Clintonville. And I go, oh, that's a good one. But they try very hard. And I've had it from other locations as well. And the consistency is pretty much there. Though some people, I think they debate just for the sake of debating. You know, oh, the one by me is better than the one by you.
In Columbus, Angie's and Massey's in particular,
Yeah.
they have loyal customer bases that will tell you, like for Massey's, for instance, like I only get it at the Whitehall location because they've got the old pizza oven there. Right. And when I call them in, I'm like, make sure to do it extra crispy in this way, and those other locations just can't do it the same way. There may be some truth to that, but I find for pretty much all of us as humans, whatever that first pizza that we have is the one we connect with and sets our template for what pizza should be.
Sure.
And whether it's moving to a new city or even just trying a different location of a place, it's really hard to recreate what that template
I get
is
it
in our
because I'm
head.
wearing this Permani Brothers shirt.
Oh, yeah.
All right, and I like, when I think of Permani Brothers, like I've had them in different places.
Yeah.
But for some reason, psychologically, when I go to the original one,
Yeah.
and it's because of the ovens, or maybe it's because those things have been just cooked on, and wonderful things have been made upon them for decades.
Yeah.
That's the original location in the strip.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I won't go to any other location.
Right.
It's
It's
like,
like
I'm not even going to bother.
I do the same thing with Marion's in Dayton. I only go to the original on Dixie Drive
The
because
original.
that was the first one, and the pizza's better there.
Yep.
so
And they've got you talked about the pepperonis for real quick. The cup,
Cup and char.
And what's that called? What's that style called?
It's different people call it different things, but most people just refer to either cup and char or old world pepperoni.
Old world
is sometimes
pepperoni.
you will hear.
Yeah, but they make the little cups and they
the,
fill up
with
with
the
fruits.
Yes.
purveyors, the world champion of old world pepperoni and cup and char, which is another reason why Columbus is pizza
char.
capital, or was, the Ezo Sausage Company.
yes,
Ezo.
yeah.
And this is objective. They have a state-of-the-art plant that produces this in Columbus. They do things harder with more work, more labor than anybody else does. Their product is legitimately, objectively better. They have a 100% beef version of their pepperoni, which is incredibly popular, to the point where literally plane loads of that go over to Saudi Arabia because it is a halal right product, right? It's 100% beef and all
okay,
of that.
all right,
So,
all right.
and in New York City, which has
New
its
York City.
percentage of pizza snobs,
Yes.
is if you have Ezo pepperoni on the menu on your pizza, instant street credibility. Because in New York, they recognize
It's
this
street cred.
is the
Yeah.
best pepperoni
My buddy
you can
in
serve.
Colorado. That's what made me think of it. We went to school with him at Dayton. Would go there to Marion's, and
Yeah.
they're talking about it in Colorado.
Jim, would you?
Oh, absolutely.
Please have some. He put a little bit of everything in there.
Yeah,
Thanks for the
we're
sample.
getting hungry here, Dave. Yeah, I'm kidding. I already had a
That's the sliders that he added to the menu,
And,
that
visual aid, this thin
That-
slice,
speaking of tradition-
homemade Gatto's pepperoni.
Speaking of tradition,
We'll talk about this later too.
we can talk about it now while you're doing
This
it.
falls
Talk about it
into
now.
what
You're
I call
eating it.
the old school variant for Columbus style pizza is making your own sausage in this type of cut.
I never had that kind of cut until I had Gatto's
Until
for the first
Gatto's,
time.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's theirs.
Yeah.
That's,
I love it.
That's
It's
a good
great.
deal. Yeah, Gatto's is great. Gatto's is great. Okay, while I'm eating, while you're eating, and enjoying, let's talk about what is the definition of Columbus style pizza, and let's debunk the myths and the mythologies, if you will, about it. As far as I know, it's thin to medium crust
Correct.
and in squares or
Yes.
long rectangles like we have.
Talk about that some more too. Yes,
Okay,
you're
so-
on fire. You're
but
doing
you're-
well.
But you take it from here.
You alluded to this at the beginning, and we talked about it a little bit before the mics were turned on. So there is a not insignificant minority of people that live in Columbus, Ohio, people that are disloyal to this tradition and heritage that we have that say, there's not a Columbus style pizza. This is just some hipster bandwagon thing. It's Midwestern pizza. It's all the same. Like stop spreading this myth, this rumor. And there's legitimately a Columbus style pizza. We can back it up with history. Some guy wrote a book about it. And there's even a Wikipedia page that launched this year that backs us up, right? And we know that anything on Wikipedia
You got to trust it,
clearly
right? Of
true,
course.
right? Because it's been vetted. So this is Columbus style pizza. These are the key elements that one must have to call it Columbus style. A yeast risen crust.
Oh, a yeast risen
Yeah.
crust.
So
Okay.
some people confuse Columbus style with St. Louis style pizza. They might look similar visually, but they are very different. And one of the primary differences is St. Louis style pizza is not a yeast risen crust. Next, smoked provolone or regular provolone or a provolone mozzarella blend. That is key to the Columbus style.
All right.
If we look at other variants, they lead with mozzarella. Mozzarella was their cheese. In Columbus, provolone has been our cheese of choice since the 1950s, and that was because of Richie DiPaolo, who we mentioned before. We might talk about later. In Chicago, kind of a current buzz thing going on is Chicago tavern style pizza. There's this myth that has perpetuated for decades that says, oh, well, Chicago deep dish, that's the true pizza of Chicago. And folks live in Chicago. It's like, no, that's for tourists. We don't eat that stuff. It's tavern style. It's the south side of Chicago. It's Vito and Nick's.
What's considered a tavern cut?
tavern cut is squares?
Squares.
And there's a reason for that too. I'll expand on that in a bit. So for Chicago tavern style pizza was started probably just a little bit before Columbus style did. Thin crust, yeast risen crust, cut in squares. That's known as party cut, tavern cut. In Columbus, some people call it Massey's cut. There's different reasons for it. The reason it's cut in squares is because pizza in Chicago, pizza in Columbus was a bar food or a late night food. So that's giving people a little snack to keep them drinking. Or in Columbus, because pizza took off when teenage culture took off, is a bunch of teenagers pulling their money after a football game and saying, all right, we can all share this pizza. We can all get a little bit. And because this newfangled pizza is new, we can maybe have a couple different toppings on different parts of the pizza and try something new and different. So that's kind of what grew tavern cut, party cut in the Midwest. And we're just nice people, right? I mean, it's if you have gigantic triangle slices,
Right.
a couple people are going to get a big giant slice, but a lot of people are going to get left behind. We don't
want
wanna do
anybody
that.
left behind.
Yeah. No, we're not doing that. So back to yeast risen crust, provolone, sweeter sauce. So our sauce leans sweeter. There's a reason for that. Most Italian immigrants in Columbus came from a couple specific parts of Italy. And so those family traditions, those family recipes came with them. So it's maybe a certain type of tomato or a certain mix of spices or sugar or whatever in their sauce.
Sugar in the sauce.
Yeah.
What?
Some, not all.
Right. I caught shit for that in a short film that I did
From Di Lorenzo.
My wife is very Italian. They put sugar in their sauce.
Thank you.
Yes, it's okay.
It's in The Godfather. If it's in The Godfather, then it's okay.
Yeah,
that's all I'm
it's
saying.
Legit.
Continue,
it's
sir.
been
I didn't mean to divert.
Properly. No, that was good. I was having a flashback to conversations with my wife's family. I'm a bit of an outlier with them. So sweeter sauce. So that is definitely a Columbus style thing. The best example you will find of that very high sweetness content is I'm blanking on it. Planks. The original Planks, like their sauce is very
On South High Street?
Yeah.
Not the South High Street one, the Sherman Village one on Parsons.
Parsons.
Yeah.
All right.
That's the original. That's the one that does it this way. So sweeter. Edge to edge toppings. So think of Donato's in particular, but think of other Columbus style pizzas as well. You don't have like a little topping drop.
But isn't it funny
You
that
have a layer.
But
of
Donato's
toppings.
seems to have claimed that.
They did claim that. That's the edge. And they had a lawsuit against Pizza Hut about the edge, and they won that lawsuit.
Really?
But Pizza Hut is coming out. It's a slightly different name now, but essentially Pizza Hut has brought back the edge, and because of how they've worded it, they are not subject to additional lawsuits from Donato's. Edge to edge toppings, right? So end to end covered layers. Massey's is probably the pizza place that does that to the most extreme level. Like literally, you look at a Massey's pizza, you're not sure what's under all that pepperoni and toppings, but they do it to the extreme. Minimal crust edge, no crust ring, right? So it's not like a little raised thing. It's not a little ring around it. It's like it's flat. There might be a teeny, like couple centimeters of like something that's not cheese and toppings, but you have that on the edge.
Right.
But that doesn't mean they're slacking in the crust. You know what I mean? The crust is still
on fire.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, because like people
You got very
just,
defensive there for
well,
a second.
because a lot of people eat the triangle. You know, you get like your Pizza Hut, and you just you want that crust, you know, and it's big and it's like a breadstick.
And it's my favorite part is the tiny corner because it's got a lot of like the crusty bread on it.
Crusty bread on
That's
it.
my favorite.
It is an urban legend, but
It's
I think
cute.
everybody has a family story about this. It's usually the dad's responsibility to go pick up the pizza, and the pizza gets to the table,
Those
and
are
you lift
gone.
open the box on. It's like, hey, there's some corners missing. It's like, oh, must have been the guy at the shop testing it, making sure it's the right temperature.
It wasn't me.
Can't trust those Italians.
Gotten cold.
Yeah.
I was drinking a beer.
The missing corners is a Columbus Midwest experience that other people don't understand. Not all triangles are created equal.
No, they're
right?
not.
But those are the best little triangles for most of us. Pepperoni. Now, nationally, pepperoni is the preferred topping. Most states, most styles, etc. We can make a very strong argument that if Columbus was not the first place to feature pepperoni as a kind of a feature topping, it was one of the first. Definitely in the Midwest. That's also because of Richie DiPaolo. He helped push that in the city. So pepperoni is our thing. We have the wonderful Izzo Sausage Company that makes some of the best pepperoni in the world. So we've got that. Square cut, party cut, tavern cut. We mentioned that before.
Right.
That's critical. And this is kind of a variant. It's not all places. Many places, Dante's would be an example. A couple other places is when that pizza's coming out of the oven is just a light dusting of Parmesan or Romano on top of that pizza, right? Especially like at Dante's, you can see it. It's like you're looking at your pepperoni and like there's this little like kind of like different color, a little bit salty.
Yeah, like magic dust.
And a lot of times when I'm trying out a new place, I'll just get a plain cheese pizza because that's not going to hide anything that you mess up or do well. Like that's your baseline. Are you getting the basics right?
Right.
And the places that do really good basic cheese pizza seem to do a little extra dusting of those on top when they bring it out. So I think that's
Now that I think about it, Donato's does that. It has like the little cheese on top.
But he makes a good point. Just a cheese pizza is kind of like a litmus test.
It is.
For what they got going on.
Right.
I love just a plain cheese pizza sometimes.
because you can have
Simple and
incredible toppings on an average pizza.
Right.
And that's going to hide the average and stuff. But I want to know. It's like a first date. Deck oven. Deck oven is critical.
Oh, okay.
It's
the
the
oven.
temperature. That's what Gatto's does, right? You have your deck oven.
I don't know what that is. You gotta explain it.
So it's a specific type of oven that became very prominent in the 1940s. But it's giving you a certain temperature. It's like, as you see classic pizza plates, they're throwing their pizza in, closing the door, waiting a little bit, doing a little spin of the pizza, and bringing it out.
The big
So it's
long
temperature, and
spatula
it
wood
requires human management and monitoring. Different ovens have slightly different temperatures depending on their age and what corner of that oven you're in. Not anybody can man a deck oven. And actually the folks at Gatto's will tell you that. Like if somebody's hired, you don't start doing pizzas in the oven. You might never have that privilege to do it. It's hard to find them. And if you find them,
looking, Dave,
you're going to invest a lot of time. It's like, hey, I'm not going to train you to do this and have you quit in 2 months.
Right.
Because this is like too much work. So it's a privilege, but it's a very special skill. So deck oven just gives you that little different crispiness, that little kind of different variation in temperature.
and that's different than wood fired, right?
Yeah,
It's not-
absolutely.
how does it heat?
It can be gas or
Okay,
electric,
alright.
but it's specifically the deck
Specifically
oven.
the deck
Is there a
oven.
stone at the bottom, or is it stone?
No stone. It's just it's
The deck ovens are stones.
yeah.
Right. Okay.
But it's like a lot of people, when we think of stone, we think like a wood-fired oven,
Right,
and
the
there's
one
like
that-
a
yeah.
specific tone, or like kind of like our little home ovens, have a stone in it. It's different in a deck,
Because
And
it
that's not-
dissipates the heat.
and that's not a bad
diss-
thing.
That's not to diss the wood fire.
No, no, I
because
know.
there's
Not at all.
some
I
good,
love
but
'em.
Natalie's has
Yeah.
got a great wood fired pizza.
That's a whole different beast.
Studio 35's got a great wood fire pizza.
Yeah.
Gourmet is another one that does a
Yeah,
good
that's
job
not-
in that
that-
area.
we're not-
So
we're not saying
not
if
this
you
at
don't
all,
have
but this
deck
is
level oven. Why are you even in the pizza?
what's the
business?
matter, you?
What's
Yeah.
going on?
My buddy
Get
Jason
out.
makes his pizza in the green egg now. Like he does it in the
He
backyard.
does a great
Yeah,
job.
Yeah.
and you can get consistency from that because you can
Yeah.
control the temperature.
He's
He's learning.
getting there.
He'll get there. He'll get there.
And there's a lot of
But
benefits
it's
to
a
the
deck
ovens,
oven.
too.
So a lot of places use essentially a conveyor oven, right? So it doesn't require any skill. You can hire a teenager. Day two, it's like, all right,
Donato's.
pizza starts here, and
Hey.
it goes through. Doesn't need to be monitored. You can set the time. And like Donato's does this to a high skill. When you order a pizza at Donato's, and it's like a certain combination, they weigh. It's going to have a certain weight of green pepper. It's going to have a certain weight of mushrooms, depending if it's small, medium, large, and that pizza, because again, Jim Grody valued consistency, it's going to go in for a very certain specific cook time based on what's on that pizza.
Right.
Deck oven, you have to monitor and track that and say, all right, 3 topping, extra cheese, half this, half that, like maybe an extra 30 seconds. You're eyeballing it. So that's artisan, right? That is a skill. That's a skilled person that's making that pizza. Great conveyor oven gives you consistency. There's places that make pizza that looks like Columbus style pizza, but they use that type of oven. JT's, and I'm not dissing them in any way. I think they make
I like
great
JT's.
pizza.
I like JT's.
But they use a conveyor, and that's just practical, right? Because high
They're more of a
volume,
bar,
staffing,
yep,
they're a
yep,
bar.
yep.
You can't afford the training and staffing you need to have to somebody manning a deck oven to that level.
It's
on a
interesting
big
Favorite
though,
oven.
Reuben
because
pizza
sometimes it's sometimes I end up with respect
Yeah.
for where a pizza is. I'm gonna go back to Meister's.
Yeah.
Okay, you're in a bar, all right, you're having a beer, you're having a bourbon, whatever the case might be, and now you want a pizza. The fact that they got kick-ass pizza right there, just go around the corner and order it, and then like
Yeah, you have to
30
go to the little window.
in
to
30
order it.
minutes. You're gonna
Meister's should not be as good as it is.
But
it
It
is.
is,
It's
but
so
it is.
good.
It is. It's like a beautiful place. It's a dive bar with delicious pizza.
I will share this because I love the owners of Meister's. They're great guys. They did a lot for me to support my tour when I was running the business. But I am terrified of most of Meister's customers. I will only go there certain times a day.
Don't be.
I will not go there on a Browns game ever again for the rest of my life.
that's my only problem
It is
with it.
pandemonium.
That's the only problem with the
It's
Browns
like
bar.
Lord of the
Browns
Flies
bar.
in a bar.
I'm a Steelers fan,
Yeah.
so I got no business being there.
so anyway, so we've
Now
just-
that I'm like 40, I feel like I can like.
Oh, like you're 40.
Well, you know,
Oh, gee.
I can like roll my eyes at the young kids with like all the
Not
you know,
much.
all
You can't
that,
roll
like,
them-
like us regulars. Well, look at these
I
guys
was
over here.
physically threatened not once, not twice, but 3 times at Meister's.
Attaboy.
While,
Really?
while doing my job.
doing it right.
Doing your
So,
job.
yeah.
Wow.
Right.
I've never
So
been
yeah,
threatened.
so I still have a little trauma.
I've
that
never
I'm
been
working
threatened.
through
My,
for
but
that.
then people always think that I'm the guy that's going to be threatening somebody. So,
But we just talked through the key elements of classic Columbus style pizza, but there are some variants, and this is what I call the old school variant of Columbus style. So these are the things that they are. So we talked about like the square cut tavern cut.
right.
So the other version is what some people call Massey's cut. I call center cut. So you've got your round pizza.
Right.
You're doing your long ways or vertical slices.
Right.
Right. Top, bottom.
Right.
And then you're doing one slice in the opposite direction down the center. So that gives you those long triangles or strips.
Okay.
That's my personal favorite.
Okay.
Because you get just that tiny little bit of crust at the end. You get different sizes. So that's
Interesting.
center cut. So that's Massey's, TAT, a couple other places do that. Most pizza places, if you ask for that, they're going to not know what you're asking for and be a little bit confused, but they still do it. And that goes back to history. A cornmeal dusting on the bottom.
Not a fan of that.
You don't see it much very often, but that used to be a quintessential
How do you know?
part of Columbus style.
How do you know when you're getting a cornmeal dusting on the
Because
bottom?
it's on the bottom of your
How do you know?
Because you pick up your
How do you
paper
know?
plate
You
and
pick-
there's cornmeal all over it.
And
you
you
go,
know,
"What
like,
is this?"
you actually have picked it up and going, oh my God.
Yeah.
there's
It
bits of
comes
cornmeal.
off on
You
the
can
plate.
see
Yeah.
it.
And then
So-
you're
What
like,
don't you like
God damn it,
about
now
it?
I gotta like
What don't you like
vacuum.
about it?
I gotta vacuum.
It's because
after
you
I
have to
do the
vacuum.
pizza.
That's why you don't like it.
It's I didn't ask for cornmeal. I wanted a pizza.
But what if it's affecting the actual enjoyment of your pizza as far as it tastes?
Nah, it's like sesame seeds on your bun. Who gives a shit?
I do.
Eat your burger.
Aesthetics. Cool. So as you see,
You're
pizza.
a cornmeal snob. That's what you are. You're a cornmeal snob, and the only reason you object is because Mallory's going to make you vacuum it up.
I'll do whatever she says.
Yeah, exactly.
That's right.
So earlier we talked about Midwestern values.
Thank you for saving us.
We cut our pizzas in squares so we can share and be nice. But as we've just witnessed, pizza can be very contentious on these
It can
little
be.
fine points of things like, how dare you, sir, put cornmeal on your crust?
I challenge you to a duel.
Yeah, if only you had gauntlets to throw down, it would have happened.
We fought about much stupider things too, but yeah.
Far less.
So old school variants, center cut. Massey's, TAT, a couple other places do that. Cornmeal dusting, again, Massey's and TAT still do that. Appreciate the tradition. And here's the next one, and we have visual aids in front of us now. Making your own sausage.
Oh yes.
That's extra work. That's extra labor. Gatto has a very specific recipe. They could easily get that sausage somewhere else.
They
It'd be
could, but they
close,
won't.
But they don't. And because they make it themselves, you got those thin strips.
The very first time you brought it over, I was like, "What the hell
Well,
am I
just-
eating?"
Yeah.
Which is why, and let me
It's
just
awesome.
go back to saying sometimes, even though youth has taken over something that's been a tradition, smart enough to know, don't fuck with the sausage.
Right. And I like it because you get a bite. When you got the little bumps of sausage, you don't always get a bite. But when you have it like this,
And like when you get kind of like the crumbled sausage or the big
Right,
chunks,
yeah.
and it's not a bad thing. I mean, I'm not trying to live forever, but sometimes you see that big like little bubble of fat in that sausage, or the it cooks a little bit different
It's
because of
very
the
lean.
inconsistent
you bite
size.
it
Really?
the seed.
You
go,
get a
"Ah."
better consistent cook when you have this thin slice cut. So Gatto's does it, Torita's does it. Dino, you mentioned Torito's earlier.
Yeah, the Enritos.
Emilio's
I can eat
does
that.
their own sausage. Giuseppe's.
I didn't
So
want the
there's
cat to
still
get
a
it.
few places that make their own sausage. Most of them do this strip style. So that's the old school variant of Columbus style pizza.
Nice.
So that's it in a nutshell. And here's the thing I'm concerned of is, Columbus has grown. It has changed a lot, especially in the last 2 decades. We have a lot of different styles of pizza in Columbus now, and that will continue to grow. We are not going to see a growth in places that say, I'm going to do a Columbus style pizza. We're going to see the number of places do that continue to shrink over time. It's extra work. It's extra labor. Some people don't get it. Some people still deny its existence. So us to continue this, it's really kind of those family legacies of that next generation saying, yeah, mom, dad, I'm gonna continue on the business. Because nobody's usually going to buy into that. We got lucky. So think of Gatto's, right? Those guys were ready to go. And they were able to sell the business to somebody that would preserve those traditions, respected those traditions, and do that extra work. Made a good move of moving to a different location that facilitated being able to stay, right? Easier to pick up, easier to deliver, things like that, but made that transition.
You have a dining room?
Dante's surprisingly had that same thing. So the owner didn't have any kids to pass that business on to, but a long-term employee said, hey, you know what? I've really enjoyed working here. I want to carry on the tradition.
Cool.
So that doesn't happen very often,
No.
and we will see less places over time. And so it's not necessarily going to be gone in a generation, but we won't have as many places 10, 20 years from now that we have today.
I had a couple of tough. Well, no. Before I ask the tough questions, and let me preface it because we're running out of time. A name that we brought up repeatedly. Let's talk about Richie DiPaolo for a second.
Yeah, great. I wish I could have interviewed him before he passed away.
Yeah, he did.
But I got his sons and his siblings, and that got me a lot of good stories.
Got you a lot of good stories. Yeah, I mean, he contributed a lot.
That's so much.
We in the Columbus Italian Club have a lot of. He's epic, wonderful stories about him. But
So he was a member of the Italian Club?
Richie was he, to the club with that. His sons were, and
But laid the
the
foundation.
AI figures into this book. He was in the AI, the American Italian Golf Club, and that factors
in the
into
book.
is in the book
Yeah.
as well.
And let me tell about that, because like the editor kind of pushed back on that. It's like, why do you have this chapter about like kind of these different Italian things going on in Columbus? And I'm like, well, I
Because
need
you
to
had
have
to.
this
Yeah.
because all these folks I'm talking to are telling me these same overlapping stories
Right.
about all the pizzeria owners would go golfing on their days off and golf together
need the
and
connectivity.
share stories and tips and support each other. It was kind of like a professional association of pizza owners at the golf course. That's a big deal. They all mentioned the same neighborhoods growing up together. Jimmy Korova from TAT talked about growing up with Jim Grody and some of these other folks, and they went to the same high school, and they would sometimes pool their lunch supplies together so that they can make like a sandwich. Like, you've got bread, I've got cheese, you've got this. And so that's how they grew up. And they all kind of jumped into this new potentially fad at the time, like, I'm gonna open a pizzeria. Like, oh yeah, that's a good idea. Here's someone to talk to. Richie will help get you set up. He'll float you a little bit of money while you're getting started and things like that. So the Italian culture in Columbus was an important foundation. That's why I have a specific chapter.
Good for you.
Because the way I built this out is like, here's the beginning, here's TAT. And then we have the pioneers of pizza. Who were the first pizzeria shops that were successful that allowed this to trend up and grow?
Right.
And for those two, what was their foundation that we could grow this out? So I really felt that I had to mention the neighborhoods, Richie, and the golf.
You did well, and,
Yeah.
and you did right by him and all of that.
You probably said this. What pizzeria is Richie? Was he one from one specific one, or was he just?
He
like
was
the
a
godfather?
distributor.
He was a distributor.
So he was the guy that's like, hey, you started a pizzeria business. Most of these early pizza owners, this was not their primary job.
Right.
They had a day job. They did this evenings and weekends.
Those are a side hustle.
Yeah.
Got it.
And so it's like when you're doing that, when you're going from job one to job two, when your kids and your wife are your primary employees, you don't have time to go to all these different stores to get your ingredients.
So he was going around to each
So
one.
he had this value-added thing. It's like, hey, you know what? I'll be your supplier. I can bring you the cheese. I can bring you the meat. I can bring you the other things that you need for this business. I also like that you're paying me in cash, when I'm dropping this stuff off. And then they started to add value to that. So, okay, you're super busy. You have a small shop. We'll shred the cheese for you and drop it off pre-shredded. We'll slice the pepperoni for you. That's really hard.
That's a businessman right there.
Yeah. So like, what can we do to support you? And then he started to kind of make some adjustments. Like, hey, you know what? I provolone, I think, cooks better on the pizzas because I'm seeing all these different shops and it just seems to be a better product. And I've got a really good deal on provolone that I can get you for a better price than mozzarella or whatever. So he really shaped pizzas in a lot of ways, not as a pizza maker, but as a pizza supplier and influencer.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely.
That's
without a
important.
He was one of the first influencers.
Yeah, truly.
Yeah, he was a pizza influencer. And one thing you mentioned pizzerias. When I think of pizzerias, I think of the shop. And one of the things that I love that has happened with Gatto's is the fact that you can go in and sit down and for some reason, psychologically, if it's a pizza that I already like getting delivered to my house, for some reason, if I actually sit in the place and get it on that silver platter, so to speak, I don't know, there's just something about it. So eat it on that checkered tablecloth and cutting it up. There's just something about it coming right out of the oven and right to my table. That
Red Coke cups.
man. That's
hell
just, there's something
And I would say
there's something religious
for-
about it.
For a couple of us at the table that are maybe a little bit longer in the tooth,
Yeah,
that goes back to childhood memories.
maybe it does.
But like one memory that sticks in my mind. So going to TAT, the quintessential old school kind of Italian restaurant experience. You order a pizza there, which they do a really good pizza. And you have the little raised tray that it's
Right,
on.
yeah.
Nice. Yeah. Yes.
Isn't that a nice effect with the red tablecloth and the server that's been
Sure.
there for like 40 years,
Right.
That probably should have retired 10 years ago.
And you can
that's
still see the
bringing it to
steam
you.
coming off of it a little
That
bit.
the experience supersedes the taste or the flavor or anything. It's like, yeah, this is the experience I want.
For me, the young millennial of all of us here, it's that Pizza Hut. You know, after baseball games, you know, you go,
and that was part of it. I used to go to Pizza Hut because I like I enjoy Pizza Hut, which is one of my questions coming up here. I enjoy Pizza Hut pizza at a Pizza Hut
Not delivered.
way more than I would. I would never get it delivered. But if you take me to go to Pizza Hut and get it, all right,
You
And they
take
still have the
me-
salad bar and all the video
You
games.
put me in a DeLorean, and I'm able to travel back to
Yes.
1985 and go to a Pizza Hut that has a buffet, and has
Oh, yeah.
like Pepsi with real sugar in it and probably better ingredients than they use
Okay,
today.
they had
Like,
a
I'm
Karate
happy.
Kid video game. I remember where you had to catch flies with chopsticks.
I have 3 more questions.
Bring
one
'em.
of them, I'm gonna 3 more questions.
Okay.
I'm gonna go back to Hound Dog Pizza,
Okay,
Pizza for the People,
pizza for the people.
which I when it first came out. And I like Hound Dog,
Yeah,
because one, are they still open 24/7?
they are not.
They're
that
not.
changed
After the
Just
pandemic?
before
Before
COVID,
COVID.
that changed.
Okay.
but they changed like 9 a.m. to 3 a.m.
Okay, so
like
you
a
can still get
small
there
window
late.
time when they're not open.
Yeah, you
it's
shouldn't be-
late
you shouldn't
night,
be-
early pizza.
Yeah, you shouldn't be at Hound Dogs at 4:00 in the morning eating pizza. There's something wrong with you. But 3 a.m. is good.
Yeah, 3. That's
So,
great.
pizza for the.
we've
So,
all done it.
but I almost consider it to be like almost the punk rock version of pizza, because they would do just about anything you wanted.
Yeah, and a lot of, and they have what do they have?
And it's good pizza.
Yeah, they have some great specialty pizzas that are
Yeah.
very unique. They have 3 or 4 different types of crust.
Right.
They have 3 or 4 different types of sauce.
Trying to cover a lot of bases.
Yeah. It's also a really good bar.
Yeah.
And going back in history for Hound
Fun.
Dogs, it used to be a really good music venue too.
So there's a stage.
for a brief period of time.
Yeah, I think
And you'll
they
see
do
all those
karaoke.
posters, which are part of that kind of Hound Dogs 2.0. It's now probably on 4.0 now,
Right.
but like when it was a music venue as well. But it's a really good bar with great beer. And the other interesting transition, and I don't know exactly when this occurred, Hound Dogs is very family friendly today. It's not the way it used to be. It was kind of like the Blue Danube, if you remember that from the
Oh,
day.
God, are
it's
you
like
kidding me?
Punk
Stop
rockers.
dating
I was
Yeah.
stoners.
I was a
things
resident
like
of the
that.
Blue
But, I mean,
Danube.
you go into Hound Dogs on a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, even Friday early evening, and you're seeing all these Clintonville families in those booths. I would have had a heart attack if I saw that like 5 or 10 years
That's
ago.
crazy,
But
yeah.
it is much more inclusive today.
Pizza for the people
but
and
but
their
it's still
children.
a place where those punk rockers and the miscreants of our society can still hang out.
Well,
and be
I
happy
called it
too.
the punk rock
Right.
pizza because they had
Yeah.
so many variants
Yeah.
and different ways.
They've got the dog on the pizza delivery
yeah, the dog and
vehicle.
the sauces
Yeah.
and the crust, and mix it up, do whatever you
Yeah.
want. This is it's you.
Jeff and his significant other are really great people. They have a lot of longtime employees there, which is very hard in the food business, and it's a consistent, good product. Some people, there was a period of time where a lot of people wanted to knock on Hound Dogs. It's like, oh, that's just like the campus pizza place
No.
or whatever. But it's a good product and good people, and that's important.
Right, and I like the fact that that you mentioned it was a music venue and a bar, and then they just happen
Yeah.
to have good pizza as well, and then that
Meister's
kinda-
just happens to have
have-
good pizza
right.
magically, but
Right.
they do.
Sometimes that's the way
Yeah.
it works. All right, tough question number 2. That
Okay.
wasn't that first
Okay.
one wasn't even a question. It was just a observation. You, Jim Ellison,
I am
are
him.
forced to order a pizza from a chain.
Oh, good Lord.
I know.
Yeah.
I didn't say it was going to be easy. From a chain pizza company in town. I mention this because there's not that many chains around me, but one is about to open just north of me, just a block or so away.
Okay.
That would be Papa John's. Is getting ready to open up just
Okay.
north of me.
Okay.
You said that Romeo's, which is a little south of me, is a chain.
Correct.
now.
They got nice sweet sauce there, by the way.
Very sweet.
Some people really like Romeo's Pizza. I'm not knocking any of these places, but I'm saying you, Jim Ellison, who has written the book Columbus Pizza, A Slice of History, are now forced to order a chain pizza.
Do you see the look on my face?
Yeah, I do.
I'm struggling
do-
here a little bit, but I can let me backtrack a little. So
And it could be a
Yeah.
chain from anywhere.
Nationally, and this is another thing that makes Columbus special and unique.
If it'll make you need,
Nationally,
if it'll help you, I'll give you mine.
Most communities are 70, 80% or more corporate-owned pizzerias.
All right.
The fact that we still have a lot of small, independently operated pizzerias, we are statistically above the norm for most of the rest of the country. That's great. We used to be more so back in the 90s when we were the pizza capital of the world. It wasn't that way. Chains have tried to hit Columbus hard for many years, and they've always struggled in the Columbus market because we have so much variety, so many things. One thing that has worked against Columbus is our growth, is we have people that come from many other communities now. There's not a lot of Columbus natives like myself.
Right.
So that loyalty to your neighborhood pizza place is evaporating very quickly. And that's helping us grow chains. There's more and more chains and more locations of those chains happening. Also during the pandemic, chains saw that as an opportunity. Supply chain didn't affect them as much as it did the mom and pops.
Right.
The Gallos will tell you stories about that for sure, and they did. But they're like, this is an opportunity for us. We can grab real estate cheap. We can expand quickly. We can offer our employees more than what these independent places do. We can offer them benefits. We can offer them growth. Like, hey, you stick with us for a year, you can be a manager of a new location when we open. You can't do that for an independent family business. They're not going to open a new location. They're going to close one, just like Tommy's just did recently. So,
Tommy's was on my
getting
list.
back to that, so our waning but still good support of independent pizzeria is important. So that's why I very consciously try to rarely go to a chain. But if I was forced by three tough guys like you to get a chain pizza, my first default without hesitation, are you ready for to insert your shock sounds into the audio?
What?
Maybe, maybe not.
Jets.
Jets.
I was thinking Jets when you were talking.
Jets. I was going to say
I was going to
Jets.
say Jets as well.
Yeah. And
Love Jets.
I did a sojourn, and I wrote about this for Columbus Underground. I went to the place that started Detroit-style pizza, the OG, Buddy's Rendezvous in Detroit. And I had Detroit-style pizza there, and it was great. But for a chain, the Jets Detroit style with that char and all that stuff, that's magical.
Yeah.
Now, there are other styles, I don't want to bother with them. I didn't even know they had other types until have kids. So kids' birthday parties, and it's like, oh, Jets is going to be there. I'm all excited.
When did
And they
kids
don't
get
get the
picky about
Detroit
pizza,
style,
by the way?
and I'm insulted.
But I
Yeah.
will say this: I got to get it right when I get it. Jets the next day. There's some pizzas that are okay the next day, but Jets the next day ain't what it was when it got to me
Yeah.
immediately.
I'll eat any pizza next day.
I know that, but I'm
I
saying
agree,
not your
brother.
favorite.
So let's have
gotcha.
this little tangent.
Sure.
Okay, so we talked earlier about certain things that just create these magical things with if you're trying a new pizza place, getting the cheese only, right, to get that baseline.
Sure.
Another baseline for me when I'm trying a new place, what is that pizza like the next day?
Right.
The really good places, it's different, but it's really good the next day. The really bad places or the mediocre places, it's horrible that you don't even want to eat it. Whether you reheat it or don't reheat it, you can debate whether it should be cold or warmed or how you warm it, stuff like that. But the good places, it's great the next day.
Cold. I'm cold.
Yeah.
I'll do it cold.
I don't mind cold pizza. I mean, the one thing when Gatto's delivers pizza for the podcast, and
He gets the leftovers.
I get the leftovers, and
Yeah.
I'm telling you what, that's breakfast the next morning or lunch for sure. Sometimes
Put it in a Ziploc bag at night.
put in a Ziploc bag. I put in a Ziploc Tupperware. That is good as well. And sometimes I'll eat it cold, and sometimes I'll put it in the toaster for a little bit, and sometimes I'll put it in the pan with a little bit of olive oil. Yeah. That's if I got patience. If I got patience and I want to heat it up that way. It's the best that way.
Tracking back, a brief shout out to Massey's. If you look at their pizza boxes, and I had forgotten about this, is they have your reheat instructions on the box. That's value added.
And you mentioned in the book, that the search for the perfect pizza box has still not been constructed.
Correct. Because pizza boxes are not good for most pizzas, and especially not for long. Originally, when we had pizza in Columbus, and it was somewhat nationwide, You didn't put pizza in a box.
Put it in a
paper sleeve.
paper sleeve.
Rubino still does that.
Rubino still does it. Right. In a paper sleeve. And so why did the box become the
Delivery.
go-to? Because of the stackable?
I can stack it in my car when I deliver. But
So you
also
can't stack it in the sleeve because it'll be
busy Friday night.
Yeah.
I've got people coming to pick up pizzas. Orders are backing up. I can stack my pizzas and I can label them. I can't do that on a paper sleeve. I can't stack them. It's not going to work.
So you're saying
A good story that I got from the DiPolo family is kind of like in the primordial beginnings of pizza in Columbus.
Back in caveman days.
We didn't have people that made pizza boxes.
No.
So they used like donut boxes and bakery boxes
Whatever.
and they tried all these different things, but those don't have that stackability that a pizza box does. So box technology is a big deal. The shape, the size, how it vents, all these different things.
But still, you're saying that's not good for pizza.
It's not good,
Wait,
but I'll still eat it.
So what you're saying is that
Why
this
is it-
brain
why is it
trust
bad?
right here, if we, the three of us put our brains together and come up with the perfect pizza box,
Zillionaires.
we'll be
We
zillionaires.
would be.
But if they haven't come up with it yet,
But what's the problem?
Look at the pizza industrial complex. If they haven't cracked this code yet,
Pizza
it's a cost question.
it's a cost.
You could
These
become
three-
the pizza industrial
not,
complex.
not at a cost efficient price. You
That's
know,
right.
But
$80 pizza. But they deliver perfectly.
You have to own a forest for the boxes.
I'm telling you, there's somebody that's just wasting their time.
Thank you for that tough question. It was not as scary and tough. as I
No, it
thought
wasn't
would
because
be.
I agree with you.
But thanks for supporting me in my
And
answer.
I won't ask you the toughest question. First
Okay.
of all, before I ask you the toughest question, which
Oh.
I'm not going to ask you,
Okay.
okay?
Thank you.
There, I'm saving you because I've been there and I won't subject you to it.
You were going to ask me what my favorite pizza was. That's the toughest
the last
question that I won't answer.
I want to make you answer.
Okay.
It's not fair. It's not fair.
fair.
If you write a book about Columbus pizza and a slice of history, it would be criminal
Yeah.
for me to ask you, and stupid as far as I'm concerned, what your favorite pizza is.
Well, it'd also be personally dangerous to me.
Yeah,
Because
as
that
well.
goes out on the Columbus Pizza Connoisseurs
Wouldn't do it.
Facebook
Wouldn't do
page,
it.
and like the trolls come out. It's like, oh my god, what a fucking
Yeah,
idiot!
I wouldn't do
How
that to
could
you.
he have picked that place?
I
where
did have that
clearly
question in my
Some other
mind,
place is much
But
better.
I also answer my own question before I even answer.
Who's your favorite child if you have more than one
I
child?
have one child
Yeah.
that I'm
So
aware
I
of.
only have one child too. So, but yeah, so like when I was running my brewery tour and I was working with all the breweries and distilleries in Central Ohio, people would ask me what my favorite beer is, and I'm like, "Do you want me to slit my throat?
Do you see
and like
this?
have all of my partners find out that I like this one beer better than theirs?
Do you see this?
Yeah,
You know how many people ask me, what's your favorite bourbon? What's your favorite bourbon?
free is
Yeah,
the best.
you know, is it right? It's like, you know, it's
The one that's in front of me.
exactly. You know, the one that pours easy, the one that's responsible for a good conversation and some interesting commentary about whatever we might be talking about. That's a good bourbon. That's my favorite bourbon of the moment. You're right. It's the one that's in front of me. And I've had bad bourbons. I've had bad bourbons that have turned into great nights. Like, oh my God, I can't believe how shitty this bourbon is, and I can't believe we drank almost all of it while we were talking.
It's
might
exceptional.
be. But I want to
If
go
that
back.
bottle was empty when we're done, I will not be sad.
It won't be. It's good. I got another backup one, and I'm going to close on a hometown note.
Okay.
We mentioned it earlier, and I said I would come back to it. DeCarlo's Pizza.
Okay.
Okay.
Ooh, okay. Keep going.
Yeah,
This
the
is,
Carlos
this is going
Pizza-
to get a little uncomfortable, but keep
That's
going.
okay. I want to end on an uncomfortable note
Okay.
because maybe that brings you back for another episode because we didn't cover.
Yeah.
We covered a small amount. What's in this book? Which, by the way, you should get. Tells people how this book is available for you. Hit the DeCarlos question.
You can buy that book anywhere.
I bought it at Barnes and
Amazon,
Noble.
Any bookstore that exists on the planet.
I got the last two. I got the last two copies. At
They
Barnes and
will
Noble.
restock.
Yeah.
And if it's a Lennox one, my friend is the manager there, and he will make sure it gets restocked. But yeah, you can get it anywhere.
There are only 2 copies left when I
Yeah.
bought this.
Okay. Cool. And
Yeah.
it still sells. I track my sales on like Amazon Author Central. It's like, hey, it's still
Let
selling.
you know where
Thank
it was
you, everybody.
purchased.
Don't know where it was purchased, but I know how many I sell each week.
Okay, cool. Oh, ooh, each week.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. For
So
a book
please
that's
keep
been
buying.
out.
I have a 9-year-old child.
All right, DeCarlos Pizza. We know the deal. People go, what do you mean you don't cook the pepperoni?
No, I don't know.
You
the
don't
deal.
cook the
so, like,
cheese.
what
You
is?
don't cook the cheese.
Or the pepperoni.
I will let
Yeah.
the aficionado
Yeah.
explain what I have loved for years, which I would end so many a Friday and Saturday night in high school on by going up Sunset Boulevard and going to DeCarlo's and getting a box, you know.
Okay, this is going to get a little confrontational on my end. So,
Sure.
did you grow up in Steubenville?
I did. I went. What I call
Okay.
my formative years.
Okay,
From
so,
sixth grade to high school through high
okay.
school.
So you are one of 4 famous people from Steubenville.
Well,
There's you.
Okay.
There's Dean Martin,
that one's famous.
Johnny DiLoretto.
Well, okay.
Johnny-
So there's two. So there's
still
3
one.
people.
There's still one right
And
now.
I
famous.
forget, but she's like a porn star or something. But I'm blanking on her name.
Tracy
Lords.
Tracy Lords,
No, I disagree. There is Johnny DiLoretto. By the way, I love you. I haven't seen you forever.
I miss you, Johnny.
I miss you, Johnny. I want to take him off the list because I think we're still aspiring to get our note of fame. I will take myself off the list.
Okay.
I will keep Dean Martin.
Yep, deserves it.
Tracy Lords.
I've heard of her, so it counts.
infamously,
She's
I will do
infamous,
that.
yeah.
I will also put Jimmy the Greek
Yeah.
Snyder from
Respect.
Steubenville.
Yeah. Okay.
From there.
Okay.
Also, I will put on the thumb.
Oh, is that the Ohio Players?
No.
It's Wild Cherry.
Play that funky music, white boy. Wild Cherry.
Yep.
Okay, a band, not a person, but still. But no, I
But
can't
all of those people had very strong opinions about pizza.
about pizza.
and would have had DeCarlos.
Yes.
In their era. So was DeCarlos your place? Because when I actually did an article with Johnny, like help me understand this pizza because I want to get it right. So I was talking about his childhood memories of pizza in Steubenville. He mentioned a couple other places.
He did.
Too. But
He did.
DeCarlos is where it started. DeCarlos set the template for this that some people call Steubenville style. Some people now call Ohio Valley because it has spread a little bit.
It has spread a little
over
bit.
the years.
And there are DeCarlos in Columbus
Yep.
as we speak.
Are they as good?
So what do they do? Why is it different? I still don't know.
Okay.
Big, thick, kind of almost
right.
like focaccia style doughs. Comes
Okay.
hot out of the oven.
Gotcha.
The sauce is cooked with it.
Yeah.
And as soon as it comes out of the oven, and some places do this a little bit differently, but typically that's when they throw the room temperature cheese on top of that. And the vision was like, well, the cheese will melt down.
It does.
And it does if it's done correctly. And the places in Columbus give you like little baggies of extra cheese that
Yeah,
you can
yeah,
then eat
That would
or
suck.
throw
But
on
But they
the
also do the
delivery.
same thing with the pepperoni.
Yeah.
And let the pepperoni get in there.
I want the
It's going
pepperoni
to warm, but
crisp
it's not
to it.
going to cook.
It's not going to cook
Yeah.
all the
Not
way.
the
So
crispy,
sometimes,
easy.
that you're not getting necessarily hot, cold. The pepperoni might be cold, but I'm telling you,
Yeah. I'm not offended by uncooked pepperoni because I grew up on like regular
right?
bologna and American cheese sandwiches. So
I'll
it's
take a
not
bologna.
shock to
I'll
my
take a
system.
bologna sandwich on white bread with mayonnaise any day of the week because it is part of my childhood. And, but I love DeCarlos.
Right.
I love and it's. Do you like the DeCarlos here?
I never had it.
So they do the same.
They do the same way, but I'm telling you,
it's a franchise. I think a family member has taken it back at one location,
Yes.
but not at Westerville.
And I'm hoping that the family member that took it over, because for me, it's about the sauce. It's about the sauce.
And I've had this debate with pizzeria guys, but a lot of them will say like, okay, so your dough, there's a dough recipe. You're using the same yeast. You're getting the same flour. Pepperoni, you're getting it from Ezo. Cheese, you're sourcing from 2 or 3 main. So like a lot of those things are the same. Your pizza still has differences, but like those things you can be consistent with those. But it's the sauce that a lot of people say is the signature, right? Because that's something that you have your recipe and it's hard for somebody to exactly replicate that. With the exception of Marion's, what we mentioned earlier, the story behind that. But anyway, sauce is important. So
My favorite.
You are going back to the sauce of your youth.
My
in
sauce of my
Steubenville,
youth.
And you're hoping that that sauce can be in these outlier locations that may or may not be famous.
I don't get back to Steubenville very often, but I try to time it because the Carlos used to be open late. You know, when I was growing up in high school, now they close at a certain time. So I try to time it now so that when I drive back from Steubenville, I got a tray sitting right next to me with the cheese on top of it, just feeding my face.
When you go back, how many squares do you get?
However many fit in the lid.
Okay.
So, 3, 6, 9. That could be 9 squares.
Okay.
So
Could be
it's a
9
square
squares.
pizza? It's not a round
It's
pizza?
they're
It's-
square
it's
slices,
squares.
but you typically order by how many squares you want.
How many squares? Yeah. Whatever
So you're
fills
not like, I want a large.
whatever
I want-
fills up.
I want 2 squares, 4 squares, 6 squares.
yeah.
Like
Whatever
that's how
fills
you
up.
order
Whatever
it.
fills
Yeah.
up the box.
Right.
Yeah.
So going back in
And I'll
time
get extra
to
cheese.
I think like 46, 47, give or take a year from when this started, you understand why this happened because they didn't start as a pizzeria. They were a bakery that happened to say, hey, let's start doing pizza too.
Yeah.
And so the way that they did it and served it is not strange or different. It's like that's how a bakery would do pizza.
And that's why their crust was
Right.
so good because they were a bakery.
So I respect the tradition of DeCarlo's.
But you don't like it.
But when we cut the mic, I will tell you a story about DeCarlo's that I do not want to be aired. How's that for drama?
That's drama.
Yeah.
That's drama.
But I respect the history and tradition
All right.
of it.
Fair enough.
If I was going to have DeCarlo's, I would do it in Steubenville.
Okay. Do it. That's
That's a big hint right there.
a big hint, but that's more than fair. The book is Columbus Pizza, A Slice of History. Our guest has been Jim Ellison. I didn't even get to mention this one, Rotolo's, which
We should mention Rotolo's.
Rotolo's-
That's a good family.
that's a good family. And I lived, when I was young and married, okay, I lived in Minerva Park.
Oh, okay.
And when my ex-wife was pregnant, this was the pizza that she craved. So I had to go from Minerva Park to Grandview to get this pizza and then drive like a maniac back.
get it home so it wasn't freezing.
So it
Yeah.
wasn't,
Yeah.
drive like, so it was relatively warm. Yeah.
Well,
We're divorced.
Let me riff on that. Let me riff on that in 2 quick ways. First, when your wife is pregnant, you do whatever she tells you to do.
right.
And in my case, that has continued after pregnancy. I do whatever she tells me to do. But you were better off because my wife, when she was pregnant, had this strange craving for McDonald's. And
How am I better off? You could go down the street.
Yeah, but
There's a McDonald's every 3 blocks.
Specifically, McDonald's pancakes.
Oh, well.
That's the thing that she needed. But I'm not this now. But there was a brief period of time where I was a respected food hipster. So heaven forbid that somebody would see me in the McDonald's drive-thru and get a photo of that. I'm like, you're making me go to McDonald's for you? This is going to destroy me.
He's got a
I
disguise
did it.
on.
I did it because I love my wife and she was pregnant and she was going to get whatever she asked for.
Let me get my-
Even
let me
though
get
it
my
was
beard, fake
what-
mustache,
what
and a
was
wig.
personally mortifying to me, but I did it.
But you did it.
But
Yeah,
my first memory of Rotolo's is very distinct. Original Grandview location. I'd never had it before. I get it for pickup because that's what you do. It's not
Right.
And I grabbed that pizza and I was not prepared for the weight.
Right.
The second I pulled away, it's like, oh my
Oh,
God, it almost fell
yeah.
to the floor because it was so heavy.
Heavy but good.
Yeah.
Really good.
And I
mean,
spoke earlier about how many of the pizzeria owners were just not even uncooperative, like just didn't want to help at all.
right.
Not the case for Dom.
Not the case.
Dom was very gracious with his time and helped me out and gave me some good information.
Well, let me just say this to those of you who listen to the Columbus, Ohio area, but more importantly, for those of you who do not live in the Columbus, Ohio area and are fans of whiskey business, if you come to Columbus, no matter where you land, no matter who you visit, no matter where you go in the city, I think I can sincerely promise you that a stone's throw away is a local pizza place that is going to more than satisfy your needs for a great pizza experience. Would you agree?
I agree, and it doesn't have to be Columbus style. I would love for you to try more than one pizza while
Sure,
you're here.
sure.
But we've got Hound Dogs. It's not Columbus style. That's
No,
great.
it's not.
Gourmet, Fibonacci at Studio 35 we mentioned. Gabe's a great guy, a good friend of mine. There's so many great pizzas in town. JT's does a great job.
Everybody-
So
there's a lot of
You
pizza.
are not going to be sad. And like when I hear complaints like, "Oh, there's no good pizza in Columbus," like
Bullshit.
"Oh, have you been to more than one place? What's your
Bullshit.
problem?
And we had a great one
Yeah.
tonight.
Gatto.
Gatto's Pizza. He brought the sliders as well, which have been added to the menu.
Yeah, good stuff.
So thank you.
Thank
Gary.
you.
Thank Tony.
Gatto's Pizza,
Thank-
Clintonville.
In Clintonville. The
.com.
number again?
That's 263-3737.
263.
1952.
since 1952, 263
some Peerless.
3737 on Indianola Avenue, just north of North Broadway, right?
ClintonvillePizza.com.
Yep.
ClintonvillePizza.com.
ClintonvillePizza.com. Okay. Why not Gattos.com?
Gatto's Clintonville Pizza.
Gattos ClintonvillePizza.com.
It's good for the search engines.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Whatever you say.
Yeah.
Let's SEO optimize this.
Yeah.
And and Jim, thank you, man.
And that's why you don't have another 100,000 listeners.
That's
you
probably
haven't
why,
optimized
because
your,
we
your
don't
podcast title yet.
because we're idiots when it comes to.
And one day we'll have a TikTok.
Yeah,
post.
supposedly this is the brainchild right
Yeah,
here.
TikTok.
Well,
And-
since when?
yeah.
Oh, so now on the brainchild.
You've been the brainchild. Jim, thank you so much, man. I
It was
appreciate
so much
it.
fun.
Thank
and
you.
I'm surrounded by books and alcohol. I'm happy.
Yeah, and thank you, Columbus Italian Club, for an excellent bottle, the Peerless. Nobody can get it. I'm sorry. This is kind of exclusive to the Columbus Italian Club, so I hate to throw this in your face, but it's been delicious. So if you ever come across me and say, "Hey, Dino, when we go over and have some of that Italian Club whiskey," well, you better hurry up because it's going to be gone soon.
You can clearly say this membership has its privileges.
Yes, indeed it does. It indeed does. I want to thank Greg Hansberry, John Whitney on the video side. Chip, you were right. It's Gatto's.
Feel better, Chip.
Yeah, you feel better, Chip. He'll be back with us next time around. My name is Dino Tripodis, and until the next bottle, see you.